All right, welcome back, everybody. I see folks are starting to get pulled into the session now. So far, so good on Summer Community Day. It's been going really, really well. I mean, every session I've totally enjoyed, and here we go. Yet another one that is sure to be a fantastic session. Sarah's here joining us. It was the overnight trainer. That's right. It was the overnight trainer. You've got a podcast. You're the CLO, and you're also like a freelancer. You do contract work.
Do
And
it
here
all.
we are. You do it all. Here we are with this session, nailing your niche, starting and growing your L&D career. You've got, what is it, 5 key steps on how to find your niche inside of L&D. I'm sure that this is going to be useful for everybody. In fact, I don't know if Tom McDowell is in, but he was asking about this in the freelance panel earlier. And so hopefully he'll be able to jump in and enjoy this session as well. I would like to know a little bit more about you, Sarah. I met you through Heidi Kirby. I heard you on Heidi Kirby's podcast. So maybe as we get started, just tell me a little bit about your journey and your background as an L&D professional.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Heidi, for having me on your podcast and for getting me on here. And I saw she was the first person to comment in the chat. So appreciate, love all the friends you make in this industry, and especially in this virtual world, which has been amazing. But real quick background, I never set out to be in learning and development, never knew learning and development was a thing that you could do for a job. And I was in sales and in property management and doing sales for a very, very long time, and worked my way up through there. And the kind of constant when I look back was how much I loved developing people and helping people and, growing people. And I was always making what I now know are called job aids and, presentations and hosting, sales meetings and coaching people and all of these facets of learning and development that I never knew could actually be its own full-time job. So I sat through a leadership training. I worked for a really amazing company that had awesome learning and development programming, sat through a 2-day leadership training, which sounds crazy now in COVID world to think of sitting through 2 days of training, and absolutely was just enamored by the fact that someone was able to facilitate this and that was their full-time job. And afterwards went up to the trainer, to the head of learning and development, and I said, hey, how can I do this? And they asked me if I knew a specific software. I said yes. And the next day I was a systems trainer and a software trainer. And so that's kind of the precipice of my company being called the overnight trainer, because without really knowing anything about L&D, I was thrust into the world of it and had incredible mentors, incredible people guiding me throughout my entire career. Very quickly became the head of L&D and director of L&D there. And since then have kind of been on a journey and have served as head of L&D for 4 different organizations. And late last year realized that, again, through some soul searching, what I love to do the most is develop people inside of their learning and development careers. And that's where the overnight trainer really came from, and helping coach people and see that we all have these incredible skills, and how do we really look deep inside of ourselves and figure out, hey, what does that mean for my career? And I really believe you can really have everything you want to have and do what you want to do. It's just about being able to find that.
I love it. You're perfect for this event. I think this is
you.
great. That's why you're here. You're perfect for this event. Sarah, I posted in your LinkedIn profile. So everyone in the chat, you can see the URL for her LinkedIn profile, and also for the overnighttrainer.com. Check that out. And I think that's where I read your bio, and it is a fascinating story. And I think others have gone through some similar stuff as well. So I am going to go ahead. I'm just going to hide myself and let you take it away.
Amazing. Let me go ahead and get my screen shared here. Awesome. Let's see. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks so much for attending. I know it's been a really awesome, busy day, and I know a lot of you are coming off of a lot of learning today. So hopefully this will be something new to add to your tool belt. Like we mentioned before, my name is Sarah. I already went through all of this about how I became a trainer overnight, and a lot of trial and errors happened from that. And I really am so grateful of all those, like I say here, mostly errors that happened, because it led to a lot of learning for me. And a lot of that is what I try to help people not make those same mistakes that I have. But through those errors, was able to grow become director of L&D at 4 different organizations. I've created lots of learning programs for over 10,000 employees. And now what I wake up and loving every single day is helping L&D professionals land their dream job at their dream company. And so I coach people who are looking to transition in L&D, people who are already inside of L&D and want to grow their careers, find something more, something deeper and meaningful. I work with people in regards to that. So I'm excited to really kick things off. And I know there's a lot of job seekers here. And whether you are transitioning into learning and development, or you are job seeking for something in the future, or even thinking about job seeking in the future, I want to throw out a couple of statistics that really blew my mind. And the reality is that people are applying for hundreds of roles when they're looking. And you can go ahead and tell me in the chat if you've ever been in that situation where you have just applied and applied and applied and applied hundreds of different roles. And I've been seeing it over and over again. Okay, I see I am right now, right? A lot of people. And so on average, job seekers right now are applying to 100 to 200 roles. That is so many jobs. And the reality is, when we look at the average number of time, and I researched this and I thought 45 minutes was actually pretty low, but the average number of time spent applying to one job, right? That's looking at actually looking for jobs, writing your resume, recrafting your resume, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well, but going through this whole process, just the application process, right? Not even all the interviewing process. We're looking at 75 to 150 hours. And so I was seeing over and over again on LinkedIn, just people who felt really disheartened by the job search and by just putting themselves out there, 100, 200, 300 jobs. Yes, for that, looking for a job is a job. It feels like that sometimes, right? And so my goal is to kind of help maybe take a little bit of that away from you and give you a little bit of time back as you are, whether you're searching for a brand new job or thinking about growing your career inside of L&D. And so really quickly, I just want to go through what I've seen with my clients, with people in general, as far as that vicious application cycle. So we kind of get into this place where, as a job seeker or as someone looking to grow in our career, we're applying to all these different roles, right? Any role at every company and every different level, right? Kind of all over the place. And in that hopes and sometimes I tell my clients too, like, we're desperately trying to not be desperate, but that desperation comes out and we're just applying to anything and everything we see. And what I've noticed happening with a lot of my clients before they come to me is that they're getting rejected from roles that they didn't even want or might have been overqualified for, right? Like, oh, I just applied for that. I just saw it. It was fine. I tweaked my resume and applied for it. They get rejected from it. And then it's that sense of like defeat, right? That, wow, even these jobs that desperately not desperate. I'm glad you like that, Kim, right? That we start to feel this sense of defeat that, wow, even these roles that I didn't even really want, I'm getting rejected from. And it leads us into this continuation of the cycle of applying to even more unaligned roles. And so we get even more rejections or lowball offers or ghosting. And so what I try to do and what I focus on with really understanding your niche is starting to break, and I can't completely get rid of all of this stuff, but start to break down this vicious application cycle. And even if we're looking at it too from the sense of I'm already in an L&D role or a role that I like, there's so many possibilities out there. I don't want to get caught in that vicious cycle when it's time for me to move on. And so with so many possibilities, if you're in that L&D role already, what's next for you, right? How do you start to figure that out without having to fall into that vicious cycle? And that's where understanding your niche comes in. So it really is a new aligned approach to finding your L&D path. So I really believe in being able to create a pathway, and not necessarily from a self-development standpoint, but creating this journey for yourself and really through introspection, figuring out what is it that I actually want to do with the skills that I have. And so my approach is governed by 2 main principles. The first is that the goal is to find a role that is a perfect match for your skill set, your interests, and your values. And I say this all the time to my clients, to my friends, to anyone, sometimes just to myself. I have to remind myself this often. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean it interests you, right? So really being able to identify your niche and dive deep allows you to find that role that is really in alignment with you, right? It's what you actually want to do and where you want to do it. And then once you do that, right, only applying to roles that align with your niche and what you really want to do. And this scares people, and it scares a lot of my clients when they first come to me. And a question I get asked all the time is, how many jobs a week should I be applying to? And I say, well, how many jobs a week fit within your niche? That's your number. There's no magic number there. And so the goal of this approach and this principle is to remove the throwing spaghetti at the wall method and really being able to replace it with a directed search that not only saves you time, but a lot of sanity. And with this approach, this does remove the need to constantly update your resume. So again, you're not applying to every and any job. You're really finding roles within your niche. So we're actually going to go through the 5 steps. And just so you know, I do have a free guide that you can download as well that has all this information and a little bit more too. I know we're limited on time here and I want to make sure I get through all this. But if you go to my website, theovernighttrainer.com /nailing your niche, you're able to download a guide that has all of this in it as well. So just, I know we're short on time here, but the first step in finding your niche, and for those of you who are Simon Sinek fans, this might resonate with you, is to find your why, right? Before you define what it is you want to do and who you want to do it for, you need to answer the questions and find your why. Right? I have people who come to me all the time and they say, all right, I want to be an instructional designer. Like, okay, awesome. Instructional design is amazing. I love instructional designers. My best friend's an instructional designer. Why do you want to be an instructional designer? And people sometimes just stare at me and they're like, well, I was a teacher. I'm like, okay, great. Tell me more about that. And so diving deeper into the why behind it. Why do I want to transition into L&D, right? Am I doing it because I actually want this and there's a deeper why, a why to my why? Or is it because someone else did it and I'm trying to get out of somewhere, right? Really being clear. And same thing when you're looking at it from a perspective of growing in your career, right? Why do I want to transition into a new role? Why am I here in the first place? Right? Why does having this career matter to me? What excites me about this career? How will this career impact others? And then my favorite question to really think about from a long-term perspective is, when I retire from this incredible L&D career, how do I want to be remembered? And really diving deep into the why, because L&D is one of the few roles, especially with inside of an organization, that's really hard to fake. And even if you fake it, right, and try to fake it till you make it, if it's not something that really does excite you or lights you up, because we end up being the faces of organizations, it becomes really taxing. So really truly understanding your why is it? Is it because someone told you to do it or because you have that push? What happened in your life that makes you really want to be in this career and in this industry? So that first step is really going through that and truly understanding your why. The second step is looking at your interests, right? So the goal of having an incredible career is that you're doing something that's interesting to you, that lights you up, that excites you. And so what I suggest here is for people to make a list of 10 to 20 interests and strengths that you have, whether they're L&D related or not. Right. So you might have an interest in marketing and maybe you're not utilizing that in your L&D career, but it's something that interests you. Go ahead and write it down. And so it's all of these strengths and interests and things that light you up. If there's anything on that list that you're like, yeah, I'm really good at it, but I don't want to do it, go ahead and cross it off. And so it's really important to think about, what lights you up, and some things to kind of get your brain juices flowing on this are, what am I researching, reading, or learning about in your free time, right? Are you, right now I'm reading a book about how to question better and ask more questions. Are you reading about a certain instructional design principle, or are you learning about a new way to facilitate virtual learning, right? What are some of these things? I see that would be thousands of things for me, right? So maybe we'll start with top 10 or 20, Kim. But, what am I researching, reading, learning about in my free time? What are the things that are really calling to me? What do I look forward to doing each day? So if you're in a role right now, whether it's in L&D or not, being able to say, okay, let me break it down. What are the things I'm doing every single day that I love to do? What are the things I'm doing every single day that I would prefer not to do? That's the first thing I talk to my clients about when we meet. What are all the things you're doing and what don't you want to do anymore? And then my favorite question to kind of sit and think about is, what am I known for that I enjoy doing? right? So what am I known for that I enjoy doing? And again, that enjoy doing part is really, really big. The whole point of the niche is to really find a career that is aligned with you and that you feel proud and excited to go to every day. And so you want it to be something that you enjoy doing. So that's step 2, identifying your interests. And then step 3 is kind of where the magic starts to happen. Okay, so this is where we begin to research L&D roles that are out there. So now that you have this list of interests and strengths and things that you would want to be doing in that next role, right? And that could be podcasts, yeah, YouTubing, yeah, all of these different types of things, right? So now that you have this list, not cleaning the bathroom though, that's not on there. It's time to research these L&D roles. And I really want you to think about that for this particular step in finding your niche. This is less about finding the exact job you'll apply to or the exact role that you'll take, and more about identifying the type or types of roles that you belong in. So a big thing that I really focus on is the goal of all of this work is to no longer put yourself into other people's boxes, right? You're creating your own box. And this is going to help you identify kind of what fits within that box. And so again, all of this is inside that guide as well, but the best way to do it, and I use LinkedIn for any and everything, yes, create your own box, is go to LinkedIn, the jobs search function, so linkedin.com/jobs, remove the location, because again, this isn't about finding like your job right now. It's about looking at what fits within my box and start to use all those interests that you had in the search bars. This is my like secret sauce right here. It changes people's lives when they start looking at roles based on interests and skills versus positions, right? I have clients who come to me and they've only been looking at it. They type an instructional designer, or facilitator, or learning management system administrator. And when they start doing things like this, so learning and leadership and facilitation and marketing, or learning and curriculum design and project management and writing, the world opens up. I mean, sometimes almost in a sense, you're like, wow, I've never even thought about this, right? This helps to figure out, again, what is my niche? What are the roles that are popping up consistently that include all of these interests and skills? And so I definitely recommend repeating this formula several times, right? Different combinations, writing down all the different types of roles that show up, looking at the common threads that are coming up. And it really, truly does open your eyes. And again, it's not for finding that perfect job in this moment that you'll apply to. That might be a good side effect that happens, but it's more about, okay, what fits within my box? What's within my niche? What are these different roles that exist that include these interests that I have? So that's step 3. Step 4 is defining your who. And one thing I say all the time, and if you follow me on LinkedIn, you probably, or listen to my podcast, you hear this all the time, but I say, you got to find the right role at the right company, because you could have the best freaking job in the whole wide world, the best job, but work for the worst company or the worst boss. And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this, so feel free to talk about it in the comments, right? Work for the worst company. And it's terrible, right? It doesn't matter how good that job is, especially in learning and development, right? We are the face. We are the ones who are welcome to onboarding. And let me train you how to be a great leader here. Yes, interview the company just as they interview you. Absolutely. A good friend of mine, Jess Omley, says boss shopping, right? That it really is a two-way process here. So once you've identified the roles that interest you the most, now it's thinking about what type of company do you want to work for? And it's not so much of a specific name of a company. And I always caution people to forget about the sexy names that are out there of different companies and think more along the lines of values, right? Who are they? What size are they, right? Do you want to be a big fish in a small pond? Do you want to be a small fish in a big pond, or a medium fish in a medium pond, right? All of those things come with their own pros and cons. So kind of thinking about that. Does the company specialize in anything in particular? What values do they have? I'd say every single client that I work with from career coaching, we spend a lot of time on their own personal values and making sure that's in alignment with the company they're going to or looking for. What will the team I'm on look like? right? I have a client right now who's very, very focused on wanting to be a part of the team where other people have a lot of learning and development experience so she can learn from them. That's really important to her. Who will I be reporting to? What will my development look like? Right? So really understanding kind of the who and figuring out, what type of companies out there have these values. And again, this is more research, and all of these steps don't necessarily happen in a vacuum or happen overnight, right? This might be a couple week-long process. I know we're going through it pretty quickly, but this takes some time. But starting to understand and talk to different people and thinking about, okay, I want to work for a company that has these values. Right? I have people who actually type in step 3 to go back real quick, different company values in here to make sure and see what pops up there. There's a value that's really, really important to them. So thinking about who it is, what does that look like for you? What is that ideal company? And then lastly, kind of the last part to kind of bring it all together is to solve a problem. And what I mean by that is kind of looking at what are the problems that you be solving. So that's what we are as L&D professionals. We're always solving problems. What kind of problems would I be solving within this niche that I have? And so and I've noticed this, especially in my clients when they're interviewing, but the top differentiating factors amongst job applicants is being able to really understand and identify the learning problems the team and the organization could possibly be facing, and that you're able to solve them. And this is where networking comes in. So I know I have a lot of network folks on here who love to network, and that's how I've met so many of my great friends in L&D as well. But the best part to do here is to go back to that LinkedIn search, right? So you'd already, when you figured out, what are these roles that are coming up over and over again as you're typing in these different search functions, going back to LinkedIn, and rather than searching for jobs, search for people. And then for each role that you came up with in that step 3, type that into the search bar, go through profiles that appear and research those companies, right? So if I see, Heidi works at XYZ company and Heidi has a role that looks really interesting to me and came up within my niche search, and I look at her company and I'm starting to research it and think, okay, wow, this could be a really great role for me. Then select 5 to 10 people through that search that have that ideal job at that ideal company and connect with them. I always recommend too that as you're looking through these profiles and connecting with people, it's helpful to see if they are active at all on LinkedIn. I had a client go through this and he's like, no one's writing me back. And we looked and the people he wrote to had 0 activity at all ever on LinkedIn. So a little pro tip there. So start to reach out to these people, and you might be wondering, well, what the heck do I say to them when I reach out? And so this is a prompt that I give my clients and I'm sharing with you. So feel free to take a screenshot. And again, this is in that guide as well. But reaching out to them saying, hey, I came across your profile while researching a career change into L&D or in L&D. Your role of whatever title at whatever company is the type of role I'm looking to transition to and would love to connect. Give availability. I'd be interested in hearing about what you do, what challenges you face in your position and at your company, right? So making it about them. It would be great to hear from someone who's already doing the job. I hope to have one day soon. Are you available sometime this week or next? I look forward to connecting. Have a great day. Right. And not everyone's going to respond to you, and that's okay. Right. But usually you're going to get a handful of people. And yes, Deborah, people love to tell their story. Right. So absolutely being able to reach out to people. And look, if people don't want to respond to you, that's totally fine. But I have dozens and dozens of clients who use a very similar response to this or similar prompt to this and get a lot of really kind-hearted people who respond. Personally, I get messages like this often of like, hey, I'd be interested in hearing about what you do and what your path has been. And I'm happy to speak to people. So the right people that you actually want to talk to are going to be the ones that are going to respond to you. So yes, some people aren't going to respond to you. That's totally fine. But you will have some people who respond and are happy to speak to you about that. And so when you do get a chance to connect with them, some questions you can ask them, like, what was your path to get into the role you are in now, right? Like Deborah said, people love to tell their story. What does a day in the life look like for you? What are the biggest problems and challenges you face in your role, right? And so, and I see here people saying it might say, I'm coming for your job, right? And I think if some people read it that way, that's totally fine, right? But really coming at it from a place of like, hey, I want to get to know more about you And people, this is my take on it as well, and what I've noticed in having done this for a long time. People who are in L&D who actually have a good heart and really do care, right, will see this as a sense of, wow, this person's looking to grow. And because I'm in L&D to help people grow, I'm happy to help them. People who don't answer, that's fine. You don't need their help anyways. But I promise you, people will answer and will be very, very happy to chat with you. And so when you have these conversations and you really get, yes, abundance thinking, absolutely. I love that. All right. So when you do have these wonderful conversations with people, it's for you as well to start to understand, what is this kind of proof of concept, right? Like, is this the right niche for me, right? Is this the type of problem I'd like to work on? And I have tons of clients who get to this point and they're like, oh my gosh, I've talked to a bunch of people and I wouldn't want to work on any of that stuff. This actually doesn't, not so much, right? And so we go back to that step 3. And, I had a client who really thought that project management was really important to them. And so, being able to go back and they're like, wait, you know what? And the more I've talked to people, I don't actually want to do the project management piece. And going back to step 3 and really being able to kind of rethink and re-examine what those interests are that you actually want. And so it's that good proof of concept. If these are problems, you're like, yes, I would love to tackle these, then absolutely, there you go. There's your proof of concept as far as your niche goes. And so thinking about it, once you've really figured out what that niche is, now you can create a resume that's super aligned with your niche and apply to the right roles at the right company. And you want to make sure to highlight the transferable skills that you have. You want to update your LinkedIn with a solution-oriented headline and an about section aligned with your niche. Let your new connections know. So all those amazing people who are more than happy to have a conversation with you because they're good-hearted L&D people, let them know, hey, thanks so much for talking to me. Because of what the conversation that we had, we were able, I was able to figure out that this is the type of role I want. And so if you know of something that's available, please let me know. But again, thank you so much for chatting with me and helping me with my niche and understanding that more. And then continue to network. So, and don't forget the rule of thirds. I don't have a lot of time to go into it, but I have an entire podcast episode, the Overnight Trainer podcast, episode 6, which goes into kind of networking and what that should look like for your network and being able to continue to do that. So I want to thank you all so much. I know we're kind of close to time here. I'd love to connect and hear from you. You're absolutely welcome to send me messages and I will gladly talk back to you. So connect with me on LinkedIn, Sarah Cannistra. You can send me an email, hello@theovernighttrainer.com. And also you can reach me. I have a contact page on my website, theovernighttrainer.com.